Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Okay, Aurora, okay, I love you too. I hope you had as good a Christmas as Aurora, Mickey, and I did. Well, I hope you had as good a Christmas as we did. And I'm going to tell you a little secret that a birdie whispered to me. And I'm not going to tell you who the birdie is either. But guess whose names were not mentioned even once at a certain house in Norfolk? That's right. No one talked about them, evidently. It was as if by common consent the subject was verboten. Interesting, no? And of course, pretty much the whole of the family was there, including Camilla's children, grandchildren, the Yorks, the Edinburghs, the whole 9 yards, which was evidently wonderful. So, to just carry on with the celebratory theme, I don't know about you, but I had a wonderful Christmas. And I gather that Harry and Meghan have not had such a wonderful Christmas because Meghan's so popular that William Morris Endeavour is considering dropping her. She has all sorts of irons in the fire, all sorts of offers on the table. Would you like to open up a new gas station in Omaha? Oh, there's going to be the opening of a lavatory bowl at the local Target in Mississippi. Would you like to come to it and witness its opening? You'll get paid $1. Well, evidently, they have been spreading the rumor that she is so popular and so much in demand in Hollywood that next year's going to be their year. Not only is it going to be the year of, yes, baby girl, redemption, but it is going to be the year of outstanding success in which all of us are going to eat crow for not recognizing how wonderful she was and how marvelous and how beautiful and how humanitarian and how popular. I have a feeling 2024 is going to be the year of tears, not redemption. But I'm not a fortune teller, so I can only go off what I am being told. And without further ado, I am going to plunge right in with what Caroline Bailey has to say. Are these two so ignorant that they cannot see or hear the detrimental effect they have had on their own reputations and lives? And if their circumstances are really theirs, their children's futures, how stupid do circumstances have to get before they realize the laws of diminishing returns have been browbeating both of them since the beginning of their bitter journey? Caroline Bailey, I love you. Absolutely spot on. But you know, one of the features of people with personality disorders, and one of the ways that one can actually conclude that someone has a serious personality disorder or the tendency to a serious personality disorder, is the inability to learn from your mistakes. That is one of the fundamental features of personality disorder. It's also, according to Einstein, one of the definitions of insanity. It is also in common parlance, a definition of stupidity. Every single thing. But let me rephrase that. Meghan is a BS merchant. She's spent her whole life selling BS to herself and to everybody else. And it worked when she was pleasant, when she was being seductive, when she was aware of her audience and how she needed to maneuver and manipulate to achieve her latest step up the ladder. Once she arrived, she jettisoned all the lessons she had learnt for 36 years as she hustled and muscled and bustled and seduced her way to the top. And she did reach the top. So she did a very good job of it on really pretty slender pickings, because she's a nice looking girl, but she's not that good looking. She has an okay figure, but it's not great. She's bright enough, but not so bright as to actually have done anything else except hustle. I mean, what has she produced in the ways of art or science? Let's just put it like that. I mean, dropping a whole load of turd all over the place is hardly genius. I mean, cows do it on a daily basis. So do horses. I make that point for what it's worth. But of course, they have destroyed not only their own lives and their own popularity. She has been the driving force behind this, because when she linked up with him, he was the most popular male member of the royal family. Now he is the most unpopular, along with her, who is the most unpopular female member of the royal family, and now one of the most unpopular celebrities in the United States of America. That's some accomplishment. To go from being celebrated as the latest American princess stroke duchess to a pariah is a great accomplishment. She doesn't understand, because she is so arrogant and she is so full of herself. She doesn't understand that she is despised because she has shown us glimpses of herself. The act has been found to be lacking. The act has shone a light straight through to her soul and her spirit, and people don't like what they see. It is a bitter journey. They are stupid, because otherwise this wouldn't be happening. I mean, it's, as I say, some accomplishment to go from being one of the most popular couples on earth to one of the most unpopular in a few short years. And of course, not only have they blighted their own present and future, but they have blighted their children's possibilities as well. As I said, nobody in the family evidently wants to speak about them to anyone else within the family. That doesn't mean that comments are not made from the family to people outside of the family, but by common consent, It is such a disagreeable subject. It is so unpleasant. Nobody wants to speak about it. Some accomplishment. And she's so popular in Hollywood that, I mean, are we stupid? Is Hollywood Reporter stupid? Is Family Guy stupid? Is South Park stupid? Is everybody stupid because they can't see how great she and he are? Or are they stupid? And they haven't learnt the lessons of their disgusting act yet. Ede says, "Dear Lady C, there is something I don't understand about the royals' Christmas tradition. Charles and Camilla have been married for 18 years, and this is the first time that Camilla's children and grandchildren were invited for Christmas at Sandringham with the rest of the royal family. What was the late Queen's protocol for who was invited? It seems very harsh that her son's stepchildren were not included for all these years, and that Camilla could not and did not spend Christmas Day with her own children. Can you shed some light? Thank you." Very easily, my dear, I can shed loads of light on this. Immediate family only. No steps, just immediate family. Sandringham is not that big, believe it or not. It doesn't house that many guests very readily. The family is sufficiently large that it had to be limited to immediate family. It is still being limited to immediate family. It's just that the older generation of the Queen, Prince Philip, they're now dead, and so are their closest peers in their age group. Let me put it that way. So, also, Camilla is now queen. Before, she was not queen. Now that she is queen, she enjoys the privilege of having her children and grandchildren with her. But before that, she didn't, because she was an extension of the Queen's immediate family. She was an in-law, and she therefore couldn't have her tribe, so to speak, along. Otherwise, everybody else would have had to have their tribe along. So it's really the top guy has, or gal, has the privileges, and everybody else is focused on themselves and their immediate family, as long as it is immediately connected to the royal family itself by blood, is included. Otherwise, it's not. No steps before. Steps now, because Camilla is queen and they are her children. So while they're Charles's stepchildren and step-grandchildren, they are her immediate family, children and grandchildren. So this, where she's concerned, they're not steps. I hope that explains the protocol, so to speak. Cyber says, "I'm afraid that the only other place you see this sort of behavior we have all been treated to, in quotation marks, by Harry and Meghan is theatre or a madhouse. Amazing how Harry's wealth has protected them from being carted off." Well, yes, this is one of the perks of privilege. If you are rich enough and or grand enough. People are extraordinarily not tolerant of bad behavior, but they are paralyzed in the presence of bad behavior into action in a way they would not be if it is somebody without privilege. This is one of the perks of privilege, because position does protect you to an extent. That's one of the desirable things about having a position. It affords you a degree of flexibility, indulgence, and protection that without privilege you are exposed to fairly immediate consequences for your actions. Of course, if you then break the law flagrantly, as certain privileged people have done relatively recently, I don't want to go into their names, but one of the Queen Mother's brother's descendants ended up in prison quite recently because he did something that was unlawful. So if you break the law flagrantly and somebody prosecutes you, you are in big trouble, as indeed was the Infanta Cristina of Spain's husband, who went to prison as well. So privilege affords you protection until you are so flagrant that you enter the criminal element, at which point you lose the protection of privilege. But Harry and Meghan's behavior, which has not been criminal, that one can act, it's been, in the eyes of most people, amoral, immoral, and totally unacceptable and just really appalling behavior. But it's not crossed over into criminality. I made this point in my book, Meghan and Harry, the Real Story, that they would be, I didn't predict it, but I made the point that of their behavior, it was apparent that they were going to be heading down the route of unacceptable behavior. And unless they, well, until I think the point was I made, they did something criminal, they would most likely, in quotes, get away with it. But that what they get away with, they don't actually get away with, because there are consequences. They have gone from being one of the most popular couples on earth to one of the most unpopular couples on earth. They have gone from being commodities when they left the royal family. They were fetching pretty good fees because they were in demand because of their status, the gloss of royalty. All of that's gone. Ari Emanuel and William Morris Endeavour are having the time of their life to get Meghan a booking for anything except maybe into a view at Ellis Island. So there have been consequences. And yes, it is theatre and it is madness. It is actual madness, in my view. and in the view of many people, but it's also seriously disordered behavior. So it is fabulous theatre and bedlam. Marie Dawn says, it's telling how hard they try to control or stop every media outlet that reports on them. But at this stage, more and more people and commentators, especially in the US at the moment, are coming out and want to get to the bottom of things and bring the truth to light. The Americans have also had enough of the two and their entanglements with supposed US celebrities, pseudo-celebrities, and their machinations. It is a fact that quite a few people know about certain secrets of these two agents, only to themselves, in their hubris and arrogance, think they can fool the public ad infinitum. It's clear that there are juicy secrets regarding this couple. Didn't someone in the palace, if I'm not mistaken, it was Lady Susan Hussey, say at the beginning of the saga, this will all end in tears, mark my words? Yes, she said it. And yes, they have, in their hubris and arrogance, thought that because they believe, you see, this is the problem with a folie à deux. Each one feeds the other's fantasy. So, I think today, we're going to be very philanthropic. I think we're going to phone up Gordon Getty. I think I'm going to go and see Gordon. Yeah, you made me a target. I need a $40 million house. And since you can't afford it, I think Gordon's going to afford it. For me, of course. Well, people have seen through them. I can tell you, as somebody who's been in the public eye and was given a far rougher ride than Harry and Meghan were ever given, and very unjustly, because the press knew they were not speaking the truth from the word go and lied nevertheless. And it had quite a detrimental effect upon my life. But I turned it into a positive, because in life, one of the secrets to life is the alchemist's tool, turning base metal into gold. But it's not real base metal that you turn into real gold. It is metaphorical base metal that you turn into metaphorical gold. So that everything that happens to you in life, you somehow manage to use it in such a way that it enhances your life and the life of others. And you can only do that by genuinely aiming to be a truly good person and genuinely aiming to do good. First of all, good, then right. Good and bad come before right and wrong. And way down the line comes worldly advantage. And I'm not saying it doesn't figure in the equation, because it does. But people, ultimately, once you are on television, or once you are in the media, in terms of where your personality becomes visible via your conduct, it doesn't work in the print medium, because the print medium can lie and will lie, and people have no means of actually sussing what's the truth of the public figure. But once you're on television, once you're captured by the camera, let's put it that way, enough, people see through you. People see exactly what's going on. The only person who was able to get away with a convincing lie and being a convincing fraud for many years was Philip Schofield. And he was toppled at the end of the day by his own hubris and his own misconduct. But he's the only person I know. Certainly my own experience was once I was on I'm a Celebrity, and people actually could see me as I really was, instead of what the press had been distorting about me for decades. I was liberated. Well, Harry and Meghan, it's happened in reverse. They, by parading themselves and being as phony as they have been, and as pretentious, and as condescending, and as arrogant, and as impertinent and disrespectful to the public, not only to their own families and to their own friends, but to the public, by expecting the public to believe that their lies were the truth, and that because they have sufficient hubris and arrogance to believe that they are so fabulous that they can lecture to the public, and the public must suck salt and swallow it and say, my gosh, delicious sugar. Well, the public said, salty, no, not swallowing this. They have made a mince of their stake in life. They have completely mangled themselves, their reputation, because people have been able to see through. People are not stupid. You know, it always has astonished me that arrogant people, often privileged people, but people who consider themselves cleverer than they really are, always underestimate the ability of the average person to have the intelligence, the perception, and the ability to arrive at a sane and sound conclusion. Well, I mean, if you have 2 grains of sense in your head, you will figure that out pretty early on, because the world couldn't continue and progress if everybody was a fool. The world can only continue and progress if people are sufficiently intelligent to actually be connected to reality. And the average person has to deal with reality on a daily basis in a way that privileged people don't. I know what I'm talking about. I've had a terrible life in some respects, and I've had a very privileged life in others. And it taught me very early on to open my eyes and see the reality. And the average person has a hard enough life to need to be connected to reality. Susan Hussey was married to a man who was an amputee. She comes from a very privileged background, but she has also known hardship in her life. And she is evidently a devout Christian and goes to a black church in London. I won't mention the church, but I know where the church is. And she is sufficiently astute and sufficiently intelligent, as indeed was the Queen. The Queen was no pushover, the late Queen. She was very down to earth. Ultimately, I don't see that you can be a true success in life unless you are realistic and real. And Susan Hussey saw and she predicted this will all end in tears, mark my words. Well, I've got news for you. Evidently, there are plenty of tears flowing in Montecito at the moment. Nobody in Montecito is thrilled. They are pumping out fantasy, hoping that all us poor slumps will accept it. And we're not going to, because we can smell a rat when we see it and smell it decomposing underneath our noses. Emmanuel Bell says, Dear Lady C, thank you for another insightful discussion. I look forward to your videos every day. Thank you very much. Your references to King Lear and the deeper issues of ethics and morality of the parties involved is certainly a point for deeper examination, because it can help us to understand more of our own morality as individuals and as a society. I wonder to what extent you believe the actions of the Montecito couple to be a reflection of the nouveau ideals prevalent today. Are they not cognizant of the fact that individual gain, self-centeredness, disregard for ancestral traditions and family are contrary to the ideals of nobility and morality? I am rather puzzled. Please enlighten my darkness, as they would say in Jamaica, on the matter. I love how you got that one in. Because, can you believe it? We've reached the sorry stage in past where race baiters don't allow us to allude to the light and the dark. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, yes. We live in a world where, I'm going to put it this way, Napoleon entered into the Concordat with the Catholic Church and said, a society that does not believe in God believes in nothing. That's why he reintroduced Catholicism and had the Concordat with the church. We, as a society, the Western world today, is a secular society. It is no longer a society that reveres or respects to any large extent godliness or the virtues that atheists who are decent people would have coinciding with the virtues that those who believe in God and are not religiously constricted and in a religious straitjacket, that would pervert the true purpose of religion, which is not to deify the church or the religious entity, but to deify that which is greater than all of us, our Creator, irrespective of what you call our Creator. There is clearly, obviously, let me rephrase it, there are clearly and obviously greater powers than ourselves. Just the other day, off the coast of Denmark, a huge ocean-going liner was hit by a rogue wave and it knocked out the electrics. And people thought that they were going to die, that the power of the sea was going to topple this immense ship. If anybody's been on a stormy sea, they understand immediately how arrogant we, mankind, are to actually think that we somehow or the bee's knees and the ultimate power. We may have intelligence that is more evolved than other animals, but we are still animals, and we are very low down the pecking order where power is concerned. So I think a lot of people nowadays, I have discerned in modern society, who don't believe in the old virtues. And that doesn't mean some of them aren't decent people. It means that they lack the degree of humility, and they have overconfidence in humankind's abilities. And they are missing out on many of the true purposes of life and the true lessons that society has evolved as ways of explanation over the millennia, to try to understand the secrets of life and how to lead as good a life as possible, and as constructive a life as possible, and as life-enhancing a life as possible. Well, of course, if your ideals are to parade around car parks with Bentley and Skinner bracelets and Dolce and Gabbana outfits, and you think that the way to achieve that level of success is to destroy your family and other families, and to carelessly damage institutions and race relations throughout a large section of this world, well, you are seriously pathetic, and you are seriously misguided, and you are seriously going to always fail ultimately. Because as it says in the Bible, it profiteth not a man to gain the whole world and to lose his soul. Nothing is more important in life than your soul. And yes, we are seeing in the Harry and Meghan story a living embodiment of what false values are. Remember, in the commandments it says, don't worship false gods. The whole culture of celebrity is raising up false idols. Now, I have nothing against role models, but false idols, I mean, to revere Kris Jenner and Kim Kardashian. Oh, I mean, I ask you, and regard them as role models. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have virtues, and that doesn't mean that some of what they have done is not admirable, because they have certainly been resourceful and clever, and they have had great application. All of these are virtues. But the way they have gone about it, I gewalt geschrigen, is all I will say. Gremlin says, Harry and Meghan are casting a dark archetypal shadow over the collective consciousness. Narcissism, intellectual laziness, selfishness, greed, looting, destruction are on the rise. Humanity suffers because of it. I've realized that Harry and Meghan display all 7 of the deadly sins: envy, gluttony, greed, lust, pride, sloth, and wrath. Most of us are drawn to the drama because we sorely need to witness good triumph over evil. I absolutely agree. And I would actually go further and say, not only is there a spiritual need, even in people who, shall we say, have desiccated souls, to see the struggle between good and evil, even if they're really rooting for evil to conquer good. But the fact of the matter is, evil's also very entertaining. That's why crime stories, that's why, good in its own place is wonderful, but it's not as entertaining. It may be uplifting, but it's not as exciting. It's the straight and narrow path. It's uplifting, yes, but it's the twists and turns of evil and the struggle of good and evil and the entertainment value of evil that actually grabs people. I mean, think about it. How many people really want to sit down and listen to only everything worthy with and everything good, with none of the grit and the grind of the grindstone that evil will create? Not being cynical, because the good Lord set up the world in such a way, in my humble opinion, that there is life and death, there is constructiveness and destructiveness, and the intermingling of good and evil are what give us choice, that give us the ability to learn. We're not in the Garden of Eden. We are human beings on earth. If we were in the Garden of Eden, we wouldn't even know about evil, nor would we find evil so alluring. And make no mistake about it, I'm not saying gross evil now, little evil, little destructiveness. Nobody wants to see somebody who is truly, truly dreadful. But acceptable evil, as opposed to gross evil, is entertaining. That's my opinion. And, it's also what isn't evil but is difficult is what also helps to make life challenging and interesting. So it doesn't necessarily need to be evil as well, but it can be the difficulties of life, the challenges of life. It's just the way life was set up. And I accept life as it is, and I try to relish it in all its complexity. Sid Mountaineer says, Archewell working to censor the public under the guise of charitable work is exactly how Meghan's type of narcissism works. Mid-range narcissists like her aren't as blatant in that way as lesser narcissists, and unlike greaters, they aren't sophisticated, intelligent, or aware enough to do it in a more cunning way that's difficult for others to see through. She operates a facade and is unaware that she's fraudulent. Her narcissism doesn't allow her to know why she's doing things that way, but it needs them done that way and does it without her knowing. She's not intelligent enough or aware, so she's made to believe what she's doing is in line with her facade. She truly believes she's doing good work and helping others, which makes her even more dangerous in many ways than greater narcissists. That's a very interesting observation, Sid Mountaineer. Thank you for it. Well, let me put it this way. Many evil people think that they are not evil. I'm going to use a small example that is extreme, but it gets the point across. Adolf Hitler actually thought, in his crazy, bizarre, disordered way, that the Jews were responsible for things that they were not responsible for that were wrong in society. He also thought that people who were not able-bodied had no value and their life had no value. An old friend of mine had a disabled brother who was dispatched by Hitler in Austria under his program for cleaning up society of useless people. It was a child, incidentally. He thought he was doing good. That's right. Stalin, who had been a trainee monk, he was a scholastic in a monastery. He substituted Leninist, Stalinist Marxism for Christianity and for the Russian Orthodox religion. He thought he was doing good. He thought the tens of millions of people who lost their lives in his 5-year plans and then cleaning up with his cleansing programs. I need to be careful how I put things because this is YouTube. In the late 30s and thereafter. He thought he was doing good as well. It's really important to understand what good is and what good isn't. And to understand that unless you respect the rights of others, you are erring on the side of amorality and unconscionability and running the risk of surrendering to evil, thinking that you are doing good. And we will end with Sharon Mack. Refixated Person List. Samantha Markle was identified as a fixated person on the UK security list. I wonder where this slur on her character originated. Could this be investigated as part of Samantha's court case? After all, the slur couldn't have just appeared from nowhere. And as you mentioned a couple of times, the balance of probability in court cases should be considered, in my opinion. Well, there is no such thing as a fixated persons list in this country. The whole thing was a total invention. And the belief is that Meghan, and possibly with the assistance of somebody who encourages her. Everybody's racist, Meg. Everybody, Flower, is racist. You need to protect yourself. There are links, supposedly, between Meghan and her sugars and the people for whom. So let me rephrase that. The people who have acted on Meghan's behalf and in Meghan's interests, they are the ones who came up with this fantasy of Samantha Markle being on a fixated persons list. Samantha had to get one of the top law firms in this country to investigate it, to find out there is no such list, and Samantha therefore could never have been on the list. And had the list existed, she would not have been on it in any event. Will this become a feature of Samantha's court case? Who knows? I would doubt that it would, because Samantha is suing Meghan for defamation that took place in the United States of America. The fixated person slur, whoever's head it originated in, and I know who I think the person is, and I'm pretty sure you might as well. And it has no bearing on Samantha's case in the United States of America. Okay? So you can't, in a lawsuit, drag in everything, including the kitchen sink. You have to limit yourself in lawsuits to the matters that are pertinent and material to the action in front of the court. That, for instance, is why Mr. Justice Fancourt had little or no choice but to accept that amid scabies, evidence was truthful, because the Mirror's solicitor and barrister didn't question the veracity or the integrity of the witness in that case amid scabies. And by failing to question specifically, it entered the court as evidence. And since it was not knocked out, it remained evidence. And once it was evidence that nobody knocked out, it had to be treated as if it were valid evidence, without anything extraneous being brought in to affect the observations of the court. You have to have process and procedure in a court. A case would last 1,000 years if every time somebody came up with something new, it was allowed in as part of the case. So I hope that answers your inquiry with regard to the Fixated Persons List, which never existed. But then again, Meghan has shown us how completely authentic, truthful, honest, and reliable she is as a witness. She didn't only show us with Mr. Justice Warby. She has shown us in countless other instances, the last of which was in Endgame. Because remember, on Oprah, there was one person who had expressed concerns about Archie's skin color. And in Endgame there too, and there are 3 names floating around. I think on that note, I should say enough. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. Please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? Thank you so much. Take good care. God bless and goodbye. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed.